Hello, I'm Lexi, and this is what you should know. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all enjoyed last week's episode format. I'm looking forward to doing more like that to help provide coverage for cases that barely got coverage at all, and I'm hoping to do so again next time with cold cases. Before I jump into this week's episode, I want to quickly discuss the statistics of cold cases. Since 2005, South Australia alone has had, on average, about 22 murders a year. Roughly 33% of murders are committed within the criminal community and are generally either linked to gangs or drug trafficking. And in most cases, the victim and offender for these murders are known to each other. Most murders are solved, but unfortunately, not all. Over the last 10 years, about 10% remain unsolved, and on average each year, despite clearances of about 100% in some years, the small number that remain unsolved annually build up over time, and there are now over 113 cases in South Australia that remain unsolved, dating back to the 1950s. A comprehensive cold case campaign was recently launched to encourage people with information to break their silence and come forward. Over time, relationships and alliances between suspects, friends, and witnesses can break down, and this can often remove the reluctance of people to provide incriminating evidence against the suspect. In the last couple of years, we have had considerable success in getting people from bygone eras to provide critical information to the police about old unsolved homicides, which is honestly fantastic. It is never too late to assist in a murder investigation. It is encouraged that anyone with information about an unsolved murder come forward, as that information may be what holds the key to solving the case. I will provide more information for that along with other relevant links in the show notes and at the end. But for now, this is what you should know about the cold case of Heather Turner. On January the 31st of 1998, a Two Wells patrol officer was conducting a routine patrol of Port Gawler Road, a popular dumping ground for stolen cars. He noticed the body floating among the mangroves in the tidal creek beside the road, and at first thought it was perhaps a shop mannequin. However, as it is in many cases, it was not a mannequin, but the decomposing body of a young woman. At the beginning of this investigation, police released a few details, hoping to gain the identity of the Jane Doe. On the 2nd of February that year, they advised that after an autopsy they had discovered that the body was of a young female aged between 15 to 30, slightly built and with fair hair. They had even released an image of a necklace that she had been wearing, an amethyst, wrapped in silver wire, suspended on a length of black leather, in hopes that someone would recognize her. It was on the news one night that young Callie Edmonds heard that the female body had been found, and with her blood running cold, she knew it was her best friend, Heather Turner, who had gone missing 15 days prior. But let's start at the beginning. Heather Turner was born on the 18th day of August in 1981 to Sue and David Turner. She grew quickly into a cute little girl who was a good talker, liked to copy people's actions, including her mother, during her exercises, and she loved to be the center of attention. With a big and beautiful personality, it was no surprise that at the age of 3, Heather began tap and jazz ballet and continued that interest for about 10 years. Her instructor, Mr. Des Wyatt, described her as a terrific young lady. During her years at Largs Bay Primary School, Heather briefly played netball, but particularly liked craft work, which continued into high school, where she made a beautiful knife block at woodwork class. She was an excellent sewer, and Heather enjoyed needlepoint and sewed thousands of sequins and beads onto her many dancing costumes. Heather enjoyed drama classes very much and participated in rock and roller Stedfords. She was a happy-go-lucky teenager and had a bright and bubbly personality. Heather had lots of friends and loved music and enjoyed the movies. With her family, Heather attended Taparoo Uniting Church for some time and was a member of the youth group there. Just like many other teenagers, Heather enjoyed junk food, especially chocolate and chips. She liked to cook and make toffee and popcorn. Being so young, Heather had no set goals in life at this time. And why would she? She was 16 years old and had the world in front of her, an entire lifetime to sort it out. But it was during her time in Largs Bay Primary School that she met her best friend and last confirmed friend to see her alive, Callie Edmonds. The two attended Largs Bay Primary School together and became best friends while attending Taparoo High in 1995, where they took the same classes and sat together for several years. As it does during high school, they lost contact for a period of time as Heather began to struggle with some of the social changes, pressure, and difficulty that many young people experience in the transition period between childhood and being an adult. However, even in the throes of teen angst, she remained a very loving daughter, sister, and granddaughter, and was described as a loyal friend to many of her peers. But in year 10, Heather and Callie renewed their friendship in the months leading up to Heather's murder. On her final day, Heather met up with Callie to keep an eye on her brothers as they were playing on the Semaphore water slide. The two had organized to catch up later that evening, hugged, and Heather said, "See you tonight." Callie initially begged her to let her to come along with her, as she had no other plans for the rest of the day, but Heather insisted that she would see her later that night. Callie recalls it was a beautiful and warm day in the low 30s. She was only walking back home, as she was meeting a friend, and then she was going to go back to her place. But that was the last time that she saw her. What is publicly known is that rather than go back to her friend's house, Heather attended a house party in Ashton Road in Davern Park. The other people in attendance were aged in their 20s, so significantly older than her. These people were allegedly known petty criminals and low-level drug users. The detective on this case said Heather was a typical teenager who was starting to mature and was going through a rebellious phase. In this stage of her life, she was associating with some undesirable people. As a fellow Australian, I can confirm a lot of us growing up hit that stage, and I doubt that it is just Australians who do. Rather, a global response to the changes of being a teenager. A lot of us have gone out to party with undesirable people that our parents would disapprove of and get into dangerous situations that we were all lucky enough to look back on and ask ourselves, why didn't we listen to our parents in that situation? And more importantly, how the hell did we survive it? Unfortunately, Heather was vulnerable to those who she was mixing with, and that cost her her life. Police believe that in the early hours of the morning, Heather left willingly with a man in a Mitsubishi Magna, intending to return home, but she never made it. The house in question in Davern Park has since been demolished. While the location of her murder is unknown, one vehicle was forensically examined but provided no new information. The investigating police are confident that Heather did in fact leave Ashton Road willingly and alive. The hardest part of this case, save for the lack of readily available information, is the heartbreaking way Heather was disposed of. Peter Hackett wrote in the Advertiser in February of 1998, "The dusty dirt road disappears into the distance. It's the road to nowhere, a dead end, just a few kilometers from one of the country's busiest highways. It could well be the end of the earth. Beyond the dark market gardens, open paddocks, and tidy red brick houses of Port Gawler, the road slices into the mangroves. Car bodies, old washing machines, and tires litter the roadside. The mangroves crawl right up to the road's edge. Mosquitoes buzz around, even in the searing midday sun. This is their territory. This is not a friendly place. It was never meant to be a place for a human habitation. It is a god-forsaken place, and a person would have to have a very good reason to seek it out. Quite simply, this is not the sort of place a fresh-faced young girl would choose to go. Towards the end of the road, there is a gap in the mangroves. A burnt-out car body lies by the road. Another lies upside down in the waterway. The water is stagnant and filthy. The smell is foul. There is no sinister markings on the roadside or in the thick mud, but it is a place known to the police as a dumping ground for stolen cars. But it is not known as a dumping ground for human bodies. A small piece of blue and white tape tied to a branch over the water marks the spot where the body of 16-year-old Heather Turner was discovered. Police believe the body could have been lying in the remote waterway for 2 weeks, since Heather disappeared from a suburban semaphore. It is also thought Heather may have been trying to hitch a ride home on the night she disappeared. The exuberant teenager could never have imagined that she was hitchhiking to tragedy. As the investigation on this case continued, it became popular opinion that her body was placed somewhere before being put in the water and had spent some time on dry land. If that is in fact the case, and her body had been kept for several days, it would have been stored somewhere, and it introduces the possibility of multiple people having been involved in her murder, or that there were multiple people assisting in the disposal of her body. This points to the fact that there may be people, maybe not directly involved with the murder, but with some degree of knowledge of what happened in those few days between her last sighting and the finding of her body 2 weeks later. It wouldn't be too far of a jump between that last sighting of Heather and her last day, as she was found in the same clothing she was last seen in. However, mysteriously enough, her black handbag with a Tweety Bird decal has never been found. Unfortunately, due to the unsolved nature of this case, the cause of her death has not been publicly revealed, but she did die a violent death after being severely assaulted. The police obviously have more information as a suspect has been interviewed, but due to lack of evidence, they've been unable to take further steps. As for the hitchhiking theory, it almost held some weight, as when the episodes of Crime Stoppers aired, they were flooded with sightings and tips regarding Heather. One tip in particular gave them a hopeful lead. A man rang in saying he had picked up a hitchhiker, allegedly named Heather, on the 17th, who had flagged him down on Main North Road and dropped her off near Burton Road. I tried to find more information on this lead, but much like every other unverified lead, there was no further information. And unfortunately, that is exactly where the case stands today. A family has been shattered by this loss. A mother lying awake at night wondering what happened to her sweet little girl who should be turning 41 this August, but is forever frozen at 16 and only living on in the memories of those who knew her. Callie Edmonds spoke with 9 News in 2018 with an appeal for those with information to come forward saying, "I say it's time just to stand up and make a difference. Have the courage, be brave, and come forward to help a family heal. One person could make a huge difference in this. I understand people have fears and reservations, but 20 years have passed now, and I would say they should revisit those reasonings and see if they are still valid." In 2014, a reward of $1 million was posted for information leading to the conviction in the case. It has caused several people to come forward with information, but more is still needed to close the case. If you have any information regarding this case, you can send an email to saypol.coldcase@police.sa.gov.au. That is S for Sam, A for Alpha, P for Peter, O for Orange, L for Llama, .coldcase@police.S for Sam, A for Alpha, G for Gamma, O for Orange, V for Victor, A for Alpha, U for Umbrella. Or you can anonymously call Crime Stoppers on 1-800-333-000. If you are frightened to come forward because you are the only person who would know a set type of information, you can be protected as part of the reward for providing information to lead to a conviction. That includes witness protection and assistance with relocation. Other benefits to helping the police solve a murder includes rewards up to $1 million to solve a murder or assist in body recovery. Immunity from prosecution. Letters to sentencing courts to make aware of assistance provided. Sentenced prisoners can apply to be resentenced under Supergrass legislation and Sentencing Act to get their sentence reduced for cooperating. And more importantly, you can provide closure for a grieving family and take someone potentially dangerous off the streets, making South Australia just that little bit safer, or any other state that the scumbag may have decided to move to. Now, I can hear a few people out there saying that I can't call this person a scumbag because it may have been an accident and they may not have come forward out of fear. Okay, how do you explain the signs of vicious assault? Or the fact that she was just callously dumped in a creek with trash? They could have come forward with some information that could have provided closure for her friends and family, but they didn't. And that's just shameful. Sorry, getting a little heated here because Heather had her life stolen from her, and those who loved her have been dropped into a level of hell, all while this monster, or potential monsters, have been living their lives. Falling in love, feeling the sting of heartbreak, having a family, all the things that Heather will never get to feel again. So please, if you know something, say something. I will be including links and details for Crime Stoppers in the show notes, as well as the Remember Heather Facebook page. Let's not let her fall through the cracks. Let's find justice for her. You really don't know what information may help unless you bring it forward. But on that note, that is all I have for you this week. I will be posting some pictures of this beautiful young girl on Facebook and Instagram, What You Should Know Australia. Please get the word out there. 24 years is too long. If you want to contact me, you can do so there, or you can send me an email to whatyoushouldknowaustralia@gmail.com. Until next week, please stay safe and stay hydrated. Bye!